AutoCAD has been the backbone of architectural drafting for decades. There's no questioning that. But there's a new kid on the block, or a big kid. The biggest cost of legacy CAD tools isn't the lack of power, it's lost time, broken creative flow, and constant mental overhead. Hours spent exporting files, managing folders, hunting for blocks, keeping spreadsheets aligned with drawings, and re-exporting to presentation software. The work itself isn't the problem, it's the friction around it. In this video, I want to compare a traditional AutoCAD workflow with a more connected modern workflow inside Rayon and show where a real efficiency shift happens. If you want to follow along or try this workflow for yourself, there's a link in the description where you can create a free Rayon account. So let's get into it. In AutoCAD, drafting is drafting. You draw with vector lines. There's no lightweight BIM style leverage like walls or zones that respond intelligently. Once the floor plan is done, you export. Then you move into Illustrator, InDesign, PowerPoint. Styling and presentation live elsewhere. And every stage requires exporting, reformatting, and rebuilding layouts. In Rayon, this workflow stays continuous. You can draft accurately to scale using structured tools like walls and zones. And then instead of exporting to another tool, you style directly inside the same environment. Now, to build the base of this drawing, we're going to import the DWG into Rayon. Now, you can do that by heading to the top left corner. We can import this DWG. We won't toggle any of these elements. We'll click import, and this will import at a 1:1 scale. Now, this will fundamentally provide the base to the drawing. And so what we're going to do is we're going to lock that layer so you can't then adjust or edit any of that layer. We're going to head to new, we're going to create a new layer called walls, and this is where we're going to add the walls on top of our DWG, using the DWG as the base, the foundation to our drawing. We can select the wall tool and we can start then drawing wall elements along the top here. Now you can align and toggle. Now you can change the alignment of the wall so it runs in the right direction. We can then change the thickness to 0.5 or 0.3 if we wish. Now you can also adjust the fill. We're going to go to solid fill. We're going to change this then to any color we like, so you can really work into this, but we're going to keep it gray and we're going to change the stroke to 0.1. Now this is just going to be a case of basically tracing our DWG and using the DWG as a base to our drawing. And you can see here now you can start drawing the walls into place, and we're just going to follow around here. And now we've just started building the shell to our floor plan. Now obviously these contours are looking very strong in the drawing. We're going to unlock all of that element. We're going to select that piece. We're going to select similar style. And as you'll see on the right hand side here, it has a style assigned to it. So we can then change that style to a light gray, just so it's a little bit softer in the background, because at the moment it's far too strong in the drawing. And now we're just going to finish drawing up our walls here to finish the full trace. And then what you can do is then you can select these elements. You can then save it as a style on the right hand side here. And then from this point, we can then select our other wall elements and pick the same style. So if you make any changes color-wise or thickness-wise to that wall, it will change all of those elements with that style applied to it. Now the next move is going to be adding zones to our floor plan, and this is really great for defining certain areas and rooms that we have. So you can see here when you click a zone and drop it into a room, fundamentally the walls will create a boundary, or basically room bound that area to which the zone will pick up on. And in certain areas where we don't have that entirely enclosed space, we can use a zone divider. Now a zone divider is great for those instances like this garage here, where you can draw a zone divider to almost close off that space. Now we can do the same here for this kitchen, dining, living entrance space, where it's quite open at this point. We can then now apply a zone in that area. And if we wanted to, we could apply a texture or hatch to this floor plan to give it a kind of timber finish. So we're going to apply this timber finish. We're going to drop the opacity down to make sure it's nice and soft and subtle in the background. Now the next step is going to be adding openings. So we want doors, we want windows to start defining these certain spaces. So to do that, we can head to the bottom tool next to the wall. We've got the opening tool, and you can see that then you have a opening that will drop into place. If you head to the right hand side to the active block, you can then find all of the window and door libraries. So you'll see you've got 700 plus to choose from, and we're just going to find a basic door and window that we're going to pull into our drawing. So take this basic door, for example, we can drop that into place. And then if we zoom out here, you can see how now that space has been constructed with various doors and openings that we have now defining those spaces. In AutoCAD, blocks are everywhere and nowhere. Old folders, past projects, random downloads, and importing blocks often breaks scale or layer standards. Whereas in Rayon, blocks live in one searchable cloud-based library. And all of these blocks live on the left-hand side here in the Blocks tab. Now you can search for blocks by going into libraries. Now you can look for individual blocks or you can look for groups of blocks. For example, we can find carpets, we can find chairs. There's about 10,000 blocks for you to choose from, which you can scroll through here. Gym equipment, people, plants, furniture, dining room tables. We've got pretty much everything you could wish for. They're in here in the block library. And alternatively, we can also look for individual blocks. So if you had a specific element that you wanted to find, you can also scroll down and search for that in the top corner. For example, let's find a 3D printer. And they've got a 3D printer in their library. So you can see that you can then pull in any block really that you're looking for. So we're going to pull in a sofa. So we're going to grab this sofa and pull it in to our model. And you can see here when a block imports into your model, you then can also change different views. So it comes with 3 different views, a top down, a side view and a front view. And this is really useful if you're working between different drawings. So if you're working between a section, elevation and plan, and you want to make sure that the drawings look and feel consistent, you can change different views from this toggle on the right hand side here. You can then change it to a side view, a front view, a top down view, and you can then position that, rotate it, mirror it as you please. And we're going to place it into our floor plan and start populating our entire plan with blocks. And we're just going to finish up here with a stool. And then you can see here that the floor plan is fully populated now using blocks. And now all of a sudden the floor plan shows what's happening in these spaces, and there's a consistent and clear graphic style between them. And the level of detail that is being shown, even with this bookshelf, for example, with a stack of books, the detail is really high quality. And you have lots of detail in your drawing, which really adds that level of depth and quality to your floor plans, which really brings them to life and shows their intended use. Parametric blocks also lets you adjust elements instantly. And if you need something specific, you can generate custom blocks using AI. The difference isn't just speed, it's consistency. In traditional workflows, data lives outside the drawing. Quantities in Excel, specs in Google Sheets, manual counts. Every change introduces risk, outdated schedules, and mismatched tags. In Rayon, properties attach directly to elements. Now to start adding some data to our floor plans, we can then select certain zones or blocks that we want to apply some data to. So take this floor finish, for example, we're going to then apply an additional property to. So if you click the plus button, you can then head down, you've got all of these different property options that you can add to your floor plan. And we can do the same with blocks. And so you can see here, you can select a certain property you want to add. So if you want to add a brand, we could then say that that's an IKEA brand, and we can then change the quantity to 2, for example, because we have 2 in this floor plan. We can do the same with the floor finish here. If we select the zone, we can then change that material finish or add a property, and we can add a category, and we can say that this is a floor finish. And the same with this tile finish, you can see that we've added a tile material. Now this is all data that is really handy to then pull out into a table. Now the way tables work is if you head over to the left hand side, click table, I'm going to create a new table. And you'll see that basically as soon as you create a table, it has all of the elements in it. You've got doors, walls, zones, etc. Now what's important is to toggle out the categories. So we're going to toggle it down to just zones. So we then have our basically an area schedule. So we can add a column with areas. So now you can see that we've got our corridors, bedrooms, and different zones that are identified in our schedule. And if you change any of these elements in the floor plan, you'll see that the areas will update. So these tables are live, they work live with the drawing, which is really, really handy if you're constantly making changes to your floor plans. And now if we want to add the floor finish to this table, we can click the plus button. We could head down to material, and you'll see now you've got your floor finishes associated in the table. And you can also click any element and you can start adjusting some of the data associated with those components. So for example, if we select bedroom 2 material, you could then type in timber floor finish. We can then add a carpet finish to the corridor and landing. And also whenever you make any changes on this side, you can see that it comes through on the associated zone. And if there are any elements that shouldn't be in the table, you can also select them and delete them. And now from this point, we can then import that as a table into our drawing. And from here, you can either then export this table, if you wish, into a CSV file, or you can insert it into your model canvas, which is then where you can place it alongside your drawing. So if you click insert, you can then drag and drop that into place. And of course, you can then adjust this and bring the scale right down. In this case, we've got 5 meter text. We want to bring that right down. You can scale it back down again. You can change the text size. And then you can also start customizing the table by changing fonts, for example. You can start changing some of your fills to a darker gray to start customizing the schedule. And then you can do something very similar for a furniture schedule, for example, to start identifying maybe types of furniture that you have in your floor plan. So you've got brand, which is IKEA, you've got pricing, you've got quantities. And so this is an alternative way of looking at how you can start using tables, start pulling out data as a FF&E schedule, for example. And we can also drop that into our model canvas. We can position it and we can start scaling some of these elements down and customizing them as we please alongside our drawing. And as you can see, tables and schedules are generated directly from the model. So if you move a wall, delete a fixture and update a cost, it will show live in the table. And this is great because there's no double entries, there's no rechecking formulas. You have confidence that the data in your tables are correct. In AutoCAD, collaboration often means file copies, XREFs, version naming conventions, one person at a time is editing, and version conflicts are common. It happens all the time, it becomes a mess. And because Rayon is browser based, it means multiple people can work live in the same model. And the way that this works is really quite simple. If you head to the top right hand corner of your model and you can click share, you can invite people into your model. So you can invite others via their email, to which then they can make changes and they can make amendments to the floor plan. And at the same time, they can also add comments. And in this case, we've got Joe Blogs loving this layout, for example, and you can see that Joe is working directly in this model at the same time as me. You can also respond to that comment with a reaction of some sort, so you can interact with people working in the model. And this is really handy, of course, if you're working as a team, so people can share comments, they can make changes there live in the model whilst you're both working on it at the same time. It means that you're not clashing, it means that you can work more efficiently and productively as a team. And the beauty of this being live is that changes appear instantly. No overwriting files, no file v12 revised final to DWG, all of that mess. It's all clean, it's tidy, it's much easier to work together as a team. Traditional CAD doesn't include native AI for visualization. If you want 3D views or diagrams, you usually have to move to another software. In Rayon, AI is embedded directly into the drawing environment. Now, the way AI works in Rayon is through the AI panel. And you can see here, you've got 2 options of how you can import an image. You can either add a file or add a screenshot. In this case, we're going to add a screenshot, and we're going to just take a snip of our floor plan here. And then at the bottom, you have tool options. So in the tool options, you have generate image, generate tracing, generate product, stylizing, or generate an axonometric. Now, as you can see here, it's created a pretty quick and convincing and compelling image really quickly. So an axo of that floor plan, and then you can reprompt this image and rework into it. So for example, we're going to add shadow, which I think will just make the drawing pop a little bit more. It'll give it a little bit more 3-dimensional quality. And you can see here that as it thinks about it, it will now produce an image with some shadow, which is really neat and clean. It looks really great and convincing. And if then we wanted to pull that image into our presentation, we can then click insert image, and we can drop that alongside our drawing. So it now becomes a part of our presentation. Now, the next step is going to be to stylize this image. So at the moment, obviously it's quite a clear line drawing, black and white drawing, but we can also apply a style to it using the tools. You'll see here that it will generate a clay model style, which I think looks really great and is a great example and addition to your presentation. And alternatively, you could style it as watercolor. So you could use the selected image again, we'll stylize it as watercolor, and once again, it will produce something like this, which is quite nice. And you can reprompt it, you could rework into it. So this never really is the final thing. It's just, once again, a visualization tool to help you along the process. Now, one of my favorite AI tools to use in Rayon is the generate product. Now, the way that this works is if you find a particular product that isn't necessarily in the block library, for example, if you find a particular piece of furniture that you wanted to bring into your model, or something that a client has specified, copy that image into your model canvas. Now, when you place it into place, you can see here now if you use selected image in the AI panel on the left, and now we do generate product, what this is going to do, it's going to convert this image into a block. Now it's going to create a top-down view, a side view, and a front view of this block. And as you can see, it will create a block out of that image, which is really quite quick and compelling and a really useful tool to have. So you can see here when it's thinking it through, you can then insert that block family and it will drop into place, to which you can then select that element. And you can see here on the right hand side, you can then change that to a side view, a front view, and that is now active in your model. Now that's a really great way of having a block in your model that you want specifically from a client request or something that you want to add into your drawings. Now this tool isn't about replacing architectural thinking, it's about accelerating visualization and iteration, especially in the early design phases. So ultimately, AutoCAD isn't obsolete, but it was built for a different era of design. Today's workflows demand something else, something different. Concepts, drafting, styling, data, and presentations all in one place, all connected. The real inefficiency isn't drafting speed, it's the fragmentation between the tools. If you want to experience this workflow for yourself, there's a link in the description to create a free Rayon account and explore the files used in this tutorial. Try improving one of your own DWGs and see how this workflow feels. Thank you for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one.